Hey guys, if you don't know who I am, I'm Savia Rocks, and I help people tell their stories, stay inspired, and get educated as they find the pride of who they are within creativity, but most of all, without judgment. Join us as we talk about
You really want to leave a legacy, do something for mankind. Do something that's going to benefit not just your children, everyone else's children.
I think our job as humans is to become the person we were born and peel away the cultural stuff that was given to us, the trauma, like peel away the stuff that changed us or that was thrown on us or made us small or made us go off track.
The biggest thing I've always found is when people think they know so much, then they start knowing so little.
And I'm making the right choice, and I'm showing up for myself, and I'm showing up for what matters in life.
Sometimes I think that trauma doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I think trauma can help you make choices in your life that turn something that started bad into something beautiful. So guys, welcome to season 7 of the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I am humbled to have Deangelo with me. Deangelo is a performer, he's a theatre actor, singer and dancer. Deangelo, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Yes People podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. It is absolutely an honor to be on here with you. I'm truly grateful. I am feeling ecstatic. Very, very ecstatic, yes. And how are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for asking. You know, the days are long, beautiful, but positive at the same time. So I'm grateful to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So I'm Deangelo. I'm going to get into, I know you've got the energy. The energy is there. I can feel the good energy, which is really nice. My first question for you is, could you tell me a bit about yourself, where you grew up, but also how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
All right. So I was born and raised in Northwest Mafikeng, which is in South Africa.
Yes.
I was raised by my mom initially, and then she went back to school to study. I think she was in varsity at the time. So I was predominantly raised by my great-grandmother, a very spiritual woman who raised myself and my mother. And I think it was only up until the age of 8, if not 9, where the care was then transferred to my mom, who had then settled into her life post-studying and everything of that sort. So, yeah, I was raised by my mom then. I lived in Gauteng, a particular province within South Africa, where I went to primary, high school, varsity, but along that particular journey, there have been a couple of movements from time to time, moving from one town to the next and all of that. And yeah, I guess that particular aspect of my life, my upbringing, it genuinely left me with, I would like to say, a bit of grounding with regards to my spirituality, because my great-grandmother was somebody who was very uncompromising. Sunday meant you're at church.
Yes,
okay? Sure. And I'm not leaving any child of mine in this house. It is my roof, okay? So the culture continued. The culture continued with my mom as well, who was raised by the same woman. And she was like, listen, Sunday school, we are leaving here at 9 a.m. and you're no longer leaving at 12 to go to, to church. You're going to Sunday school and then you're going to go to church.
Right.
Right. So I grew up in church. I ended up loving it. It stopped being a routine. It stopped being something that I felt forced or obligated to do, but it felt more like my safe haven, a place of comfort. I grew up in ZCC, which is Zion Christian Church, a particular denomination within South Africa. It's one of the largest countries, I think. One of the largest churches in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. It has like millions and millions of fellowship. I grew up in that particular church. I'm still in that particular church. And one of the most amazing part about the journey is learning the difference between spirituality and religion, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
I think the exploration therein led me to understand what kind of person that I want to be, because somebody who grew up, reading the Bible, and then my dad read the Quran and various other, manuscripts. There were often a lot of debates between him and I, and I would question a lot of things, and I'd be like, I don't know if I understand this fully, but according to the Bible, being a Christian means this, and this, and this.
Yes.
And yet it tends to feel like currently what everybody else, or what, a large group of people are practicing, is the complete opposite. I don't understand that phenomena, because at the forefront of what I imagine Christianity to be was, treat your neighbor with the utmost respect, regardless of who they are, what they do, where they come from, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I experienced the different, I want to say treatment in that regard. So I distanced myself completely from the idea of being Christian and just focused entirely on spirituality, just to figure out exactly what it meant to me, what God is to me, or who God is to me, I grew up in that particular manner, raised by my mom, predominantly. Still have a very beautiful relationship with my dad. And more than anything, I think one of the most, I want to say, empowering moments about my upbringing is the family unit, regardless of what it is shaped like, because I have 3 siblings. We're all raised by my mom, and yes, it did not look like the traditional mom, dad, children kind of setting, but it genuinely allowed me to, appreciate the strength that my mom had, being a single mother for quite some time. I genuinely appreciate the kind of strength, courage, as well as perseverance, regardless of what life threw at her at some point. And having experienced all those kind of challenges throughout, primary, high school, varsity, I then told myself, you know what, I want these kind of things for myself. I want to be career driven. I do not want anybody dictating to me what I get to do with, my spirituality. I do not want to judge, nor belittle, nor berate anybody for how they choose to live their lives, And one of the most amazing things about my mom is that at the end of the day, no matter how perfect a person may, try to be, she'll always say we are the most faulty things on this planet.
Yes,
we are
I
the
agree.
most, flawed things to exist on this planet. And her philosophy is like a pyramid, right? So if you make a pyramid, at the bottom would be like your insects and grass and all of that. Then it's like, small animals, then large animals, then, human beings. And she kept on saying, if you remove these insects on this end, what happens to the pyramid? It'll collapse.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But if you remove the humans from this particular pyramid and this ecosystem, does the ecosystem then continue to live? Yes. In fact, it probably thrives.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the most amazing things of growing up, regardless of how flawed your upbringing may be, but just figuring out what it is that you can look into and appreciate, because nobody has it easy, nobody has it perfect.
True.
And even if they do, there's a lot of lessons along the way that a person can learn. The upbringing that I had genuinely taught me to find the positivity in everything that occurs in my life. I would say it's not always easy.
Yeah, believe me.
But, it's one of the most uplifting things to do, remembering and counting your blessings, and just understanding that where you're coming from is like, it can be, it's a privilege, regardless of how flawed it is. It is a privilege to say that you have this particular story or you have this particular scars, because then they inform certain things about you that somebody else may never ever attain.
That's true.
You know, so yeah.
That's true. See, this is why I love asking these questions, because they bring out such phenomenal answers from people, which is, no, it's true. It really is true.
Amazing.
It brings out such phenomenal answers. So my next question for you, which is one of my favorites, and I always say that every single time I ask this question. So can you define yourself as a person, Deangelo, but also who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time where you have looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage, or believe you managed, to go from a person that you may have felt may not have had purpose to becoming the person you felt saw light at the end of the tunnel and had purpose?
Okay. So, I'm going to answer it in 3 parts.
Of course,
that's
go
okay. So currently, how I would describe myself, on surface level, I would just say somebody who's very ambitious, somebody who is, caring, kind-hearted, nervous, anxious a lot, but also very loving, wholeheartedly, specifically, somebody who is constantly just willing to give up my love, without any hesitancy, and I would also say that I'm somebody who's, I guess to a certain degree, very unpredictable, because in as much as I do smile a lot and I'm this buzzy, full of energy and full of life person, I've come to realize that there's a lot that I've buried beneath these surface level qualities that I just described. And this then goes into the, the second part of my answering your question. That being, I've realized that a lot of the things that we do not speak about in our childhood, or we do not ever, get to hear or be taught about, get buried, right? But that does not necessarily mean that they disappear. They oftentimes do stay in our subconscious mind, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds. And I've come to realize that the person that I am is not entirely who I had always thought I would become, or who I had always thought is the best version of myself. I say this primarily because I'm in the working space right now, finished school and everything, and I'm learning a couple of qualities about myself that I never thought I would encounter. One of my friends likes bringing this up, and he's like, listen, you're a very kind-hearted person. You're very loving, but you have no boundaries, and you allow people to take advantage of that kindness. And to a certain degree, you might potentially end up being a people pleaser because you just do not want to disappoint that person, and it's going to work at your cost. At the end of the day, your cup will be empty and you'll be giving and giving and giving, but you have nothing else to give, and you end up breaking, and you'll shatter yourself. So having to come to terms with, I didn't know there was a term, people pleasing. What does that look like? Certain things I'm realizing were embedded in my psyche from childhood. For example, let's say something fell and broke, right? We know the reaction that you're going to get from either your mom or your dad. Why did you break this time? That kind of thing. And at that particular point, they don't entirely mean, harm or anything, but you end up learning to create buffers around the house, so that in case anything wrong happens, you're already taking accountability, you're saying sorry, even if it's not entirely you, to a certain degree. So luckily I have a mom who was very adamant on knowing when she is wrong as well. If I perhaps maybe felt like maybe the way she spoke to me was not the best way, or it hurt my feelings, she would be like, listen, I'm really sorry. And if you feel like I ever did something, that does not sit well with you, don't keep quiet about it, because it burdens you. It hurts you, and I don't know that, But yeah, so as a guy who sort of internalized a lot of things, maybe a lot of disappointments, I learned to create a lot of buffers around me, make sure that everybody around me is comfortable, even though it was at my own expense. And even in primary school and high school, I ended up having like these rageful outbursts from time to time, and we didn't know then, but what was the reason initially, but there were certain traumas that I had experienced, that just had been hidden at the back of my mind or my psyche. And when it's, when you shake a bottle of soda for too long and you don't release the pressure, eventually it will burst, So yeah, having experienced all those, I ended up attending therapy for quite some time, dealing with certain parts of these trauma. And currently, one of the things that I am learning to sort of navigate and work around is understanding that professionalism does not mean that everybody likes you. Professionalism does not entail you being liked by everyone. And I remember, since I'm away from home currently, we tend to have calls. Like I tend to have a call with my mom quite often, and she'd be like, listen, if they like you, you're not being a superstar. You're not. You are probably making yourself palatable. You're probably holding back and everything of that sort. I am not saying be a mean, rude person, but when you're on stage, perform like it's your last chance. Whoever hates you, hates you. You can't be liked by everybody, And I was like, I don't want to be uncomfortable though. It's going to be so awkward. It's going to be so heavy in the change rooms. And my friend was like, why do you want them to like you? Why? It's not going to increase the pay that you get. It's not going to necessarily, take you to the next big project that you might have in the near future. Why do you want them to like you? I remember there was a performance whereby I was literally rigid on stage. I wasn't, giving my all in terms of performativity and everything. And he was like, I don't understand. I've seen you in other productions and you are this, you live in these characters that you embody and everything of that sort. But in this particular one, it's almost like you're closed off. It's almost like you're not even a theater-trained performer. What's up? And I'm like, no, somebody complained that I do this and it upstages them or whatever and all of that. And I'm like, and then he was like, oh, did the musical producer bring it up? No. Did the dance choreographer bring it up? No. Then what's your problem? Like, oh.
I kind of agree with that, because there are so many people in the world where we as people do become people pleasers. Some of us become people pleasers, and then you have other people who just don't care and will carry on. And there are times where people who don't care get further faster. And there are people, you're nodding your head, and there are people who are people pleasers.
Yeah.
And it fundamentally ends up hurting their soul, because they're out trying to chase the happiness of others to try and make themselves feel better, good, more worthy of who they are as a being.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing something you love and it comes, I think we spoke about this even before we started recording. When you're starting to do something that you love in your life and you find your purpose of what you do, no one will see the strain, the tiredness, the hours you work hard for you to be who you are and elevate who you are, and for you to become that person who you evolve to be.
Yeah,
and
true.
When you're on stage, the only person who knows that hard work that you've put in is you. There may be other people around you that see it, Deangelo, very true. But the true person who gets to see your hard work is you. So trying to please other people doesn't please you. It will only hurt you.
True.
You know?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's literally like now answering the third part of the question that you initially asked. When looking in the mirror and not recognizing this person, I got to that point where within a span of, I think, a couple of months now, I was like, when did your ambition, just break apart like that? Do you want a Grammy? You want an Oscar? You want a Tony? You want to be on large productions? You want to perform? You want to, move the audience? You want to sing your heart out, dance, But here's the opportunity to do so. But you're allowing somebody to do as they please simply because they said, no, you're doing a bit too much. And I remember one of the things that led to this point was, I guess encountering people who would say stuff like, you're doing too much, or you're a try hard, or stuff like that. There are people out there who will voice their opinions without any care how it lands on the next person.
That's jealousy.
Precisely. And I didn't know that at the time. So he then goes on to say, my friend, he was like, everybody who told you that you're too much, where are they now? They're not using their degree. They're not using it. You guys studied together. They tried to diminish you. And where are they now? That should tell you something.
Yes.
Everybody who was told that they are doing too much is up there, soaring, living their best life, authentically them. Actually, with the recent win for Julian Bernard Grammy, he has never made himself palatable, at any point in time. He's always been authentically himself, the pop star that he is, quirky as he is, flamboyant. He did not hide or mask himself in any way, shape, or form. And so in essence, I guess the turn point was understanding that pleasing at the expense of my own peace is not going to make my life better or easier. Yes. And even if I do listen to these people, it's not like they're gonna like me, It's not gonna, thank you so much, you listened, you reduced. Let's be friends. No. No. In fact, any friend of yours or any genuine friend in this life who wants you to reduce or diminish parts of yourself is not a real friend. That's one thing that I'm learning to understand. And I hope I answered properly.
No, you did. You completely did. And this is why it has so many layers to that question. And I think as you do each one, you dig into a deeper layer of who you are as a person. And that's what the question is about. It's about remembering it in like 10 years time and remembering, I got asked this question and it was this and this. But as we grow older, the answers to the question may change because you're older now. And you've been through more. So this is why it's so important, because the more questions that you ask that have a deeper meaning, the more you evolve as a person, the more you understand who you are, the more you love yourself, the more you love other people, the more you fall in love with what you do and how you do it, and embrace that love. And the most powerful thing that you can have in your life is love in anything. Love is powerful.
Very true. Very true.
Not negativity or hate.
Very, very true. So, definitely. Oh my word. So I'm taking that.
You could take
That's
it.
That's my new motto.
Yeah, you could take it by there. So I want to talk about Deangelo, what he does, why it inspires him, why does he love what he does so much. So we're going to talk about you being a creative person, living in the creative space of, like, if you're listening to this. So Deangelo, like we said in the beginning, he is a performer. He is a theatre actor, a singer, and a dancer. So he is multi-talented. He hasn't got just one talent. He's got multi-talents. I like he's shaking it now. So for me to be able to process, for the audience to be able to understand and listen, about what you do, please break down for me and the audience the reason why it's so important to you to be a performer and be a theatre actor, to be a singer and a dancer. Talk to me about each element.
All right. So just quick background before I touch every element. My mom is a singer. She also did ballroom and dance.
Yes, mommy.
She did modeling. However, she grew up in an era whereby things like singing and dancing and acting were not really considered to be a career, a very stable choice in terms of career, right?
Okay.
She's that era, she's that generation where, you know, if you're a successful human being, you were either a teacher, an accountant, a doctor, you know, a nurse, you know, that's where the money is. Go there. That's where the money is. And, you know, I think she mentions this quite a lot to me. She's like, my great grandmother, her grandmother, probably would have loved for her to do what she wanted to do, you know. But unfortunately, at the time, the knowledge of certain things was not necessarily readily available for them. You know, my great grandmother lived during the apartheid era of South Africa, whereby, you know, certain amenities were not afforded to African people. And so my mom didn't necessarily pursue these particular aspects of her. Instead, she went into studying IT. You know, IT, she became an IT specialist, working at telecom and so forth. And yeah, you know, I thought I was gonna be an ophthalmologist or a cardiologist, I think. And until my dad found me singing one day in the shower, and he was like, "That was you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "That was beautiful. I did not know you could do that." And I'm like, oh, okay, but everybody can do that, you know? And he then goes on to say, "What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I'm like, "Oh, ophthalmologist," you know, because I was always drawing eyes. I was fascinated with eyes, you know? And then he's like, "Okay, do you love it? Like, do you love,
Exactly, that's the
you
question.
know, right?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Is it your passion?" And I'm like, he's like, "Look, what is the first thing that you do early in the morning? The moment you wake up, what is the first thing that you do?" I'm like, "I brush my teeth." And she's like, no. What is the first thing that we are constantly shouting at you about, you know, making us late in terms of dropping you off at school and all of that? And I was like, "Oh, I listen to music, dance, and all of that." He's like, "Yeah, think about that, okay?" And then he further went on to say, "I want you to go and choose subjects according to something that you know that you will wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to do, and you'll still be happy to do." I'm like, "I don't understand." He's like, "Look, if you choose something that you love doing, you will never work a day in your life."
That's true.
And I was like, "What?" You know, I didn't know. You know, I was gonna be a doctor. You know, I mean, I can still be a doctor now. You know, with PhD, but hey, yeah. So, and that's how I fell in love with the arts. There have been remnants along the way of my upbringing. You know, there've been various people saying, "Oh my gosh, when your son sings in church, oh, I'm healed," and I just be like, "Oh, people, you know, they're exaggerating," you know. And I brushed that off because it was like anybody can say, according to my knowledge, you know. And yeah, I then auditioned for theatre and performance, which was called dramatic arts at the time at the University of Witwatersrand. I did not know that I was necessarily a singer, right? I knew that I could dance and I could act. And those are my two special skills. And I then got cast in a production, I think it was a third-year directed production called Bukufuna, right? Bukufuna is a Zulu word meaning to reap, like you reap what you sow kind of thing.
Yes.
So, yes. So I got cast in this production and they were like, "Okay, guys, so we need to work up a couple of songs." Okay. And they're like, "You're gonna sing this, you're gonna sing that, you're gonna sing this, and I'm like, I don't know how to sing, but I'm just gonna do it. And we sang. We're like, oh wow, that was nice. You should do that more often. You should be singing more. They gave me a couple more songs to do, and I'm like, okay, clearly this is a thing. And then the founder of the Wits CEM choir, his name is Brown Masoroka Makura. He found me performing this production, right? We were performing. Mind you, this production got like standing ovations every time. I was like, what? You know? So he found me there singing, performing in this particular production, and he's like, I want you in my choir. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not a singer. He's like, huh? I'm not a singer. He's like, what do you call what you were just doing right now? I don't know, performing. They expected us to sing, so we did it. He's like, no. You're joining my choir, come. You're going to be singing bass. Initially, I started off as bass, right? Bass was too low, and I was like, can I be moved to this particular group, which is the tenor voice group. Yes. He moved me to the tenor voice group, and he complained. He was like, oh, you are so troublesome. Where was I taking you? And so I then started to explore that whole, possibility of singing. And further along the way, there were times where people would be late, absent, for example, and that person had a lead that they had to do, and the conductor would be like, Deangelo, you're doing that particular lead. Okay. I'd disappear to the bathroom for 5 minutes and learn that lead, learn it, come back, and now we have to perform or rehearse. And I would just give it my all. I think one of the most amazing things about theater is that it tells you, it just taught me to play. We call it playing. Throw yourself out there. Whatever happens in that moment, leave it as it is. It's authentic. It is you. It is not scripted. It is not, polished. Allow it to be just as it is.
Yes.
And yeah, I threw myself in there. I sang, and people were like, so this is the thing. I can sing. Wow. Okay. And then he's like, okay, cool. You need to audition for the university choir. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, the university choir is holding auditions. You need to audition there. That's where I met my friend who, knocks my, my senses back in me. His name is Lindo Kushe. He's a bass, and he directed me to vocal training. He's like, you seem very passionate about this whole singing, thing. Yeah. So maybe you should explore getting vocal training. It'll teach you this, and this. And at that time, I would often just research a couple of things about singing, but I wouldn't have the skills or the tools to execute to the best of my abilities. And yeah, I got vocal training for those 2 years while I was, studying my master's. I remember working at the library just so that I can have the money to pay off the vocal coach, because I couldn't enroll for the vocal classes, through school. So I got them on the side. And yeah, in terms of singing, I never knew, generally speaking, I never knew that I in particular was gifted in that area. If anything, because, at church, everybody sings, I thought it's a normality, and it only became more of you're a triple threat. You're a triple threat. That's what they call it. A singer, actor, and dancer. You're a triple threat. What is that? No, you can sing, you can act, and you can dance. That is like you. And it became this big hype. I was like, okay, cool. But I feel like my singing abilities are not on par with my acting and my dancing, because in terms of dance, I was getting physical theater classes because I had enrolled for that particular class. In terms of acting, I had been in productions throughout my entire degree, and outside of my degree. And singing, I just found this now. So I need to catch up. Other people are doing tricks and trolls and everything, and I want to learn how to get there, And I can confidently say now that, okay, I'm holding my own.
I can see that.
And I'm hoping, I hope so, because I'm really hoping that there's continuous growth in all aspects, performance, my singing, acting, and dancing. But to answer the question, what it means, the three disciplines, or one, in terms of singing, what it means to me currently, I guess, to a certain degree, I feel like it's a continuous discovery of who I am, but also who I was destined to be. Because growing up, one of the things that was constantly said to me and I'd overlooked was that your voice will heal nations. Your voice will touch so many people's lives. Your voice will heal people who need healing. And you should allow God to, work through you to get that, and don't be focused on anything else. Just allow your voice to be as it is. Allow God to work through it. And I didn't know that that's an aspect of me that would ever exist, to be quite honest. And as my voice grows, the more I learn about myself and what I was put on this earth to do. In terms of my acting, that's a skill that I've always enjoyed and always held closest to my heart, because it was a discovery for me with regards to what I want to do with the rest of my life. Because initially I thought I was going to be an ophthalmologist. Initially I thought I was going to be a neurologist, maybe, or maybe a psychologist, who knows. And only in grade 9, English class, when we did those small skits, where the teacher gives you like a small little prompt, you go prepare, and then you have to perform it out. Did I then get the direction of you need to take dramatic arts? And I was like, oh, cool, okay. And in terms of dancing, that has been my whole identity. Growing up, I've been dancing, you name it. You couldn't listen, I would go down and you could not reach there, like that is my whole identity. And I think in my dancing, you will see a lot of jubilance, you'll see a lot of kindredness, you'll see a lot of joy, because at the core of who I am, the happy soul that I want to be continuously is that kid who was constantly just dancing. Any moment he got a beat and he would just have the time of his life. He couldn't care less whether you're making fun of him. He couldn't care less whether you don't like him. He was just having the time of his life. So all those skills, these 3 skills are just different parts of me and finding their way to each other, eventually meeting to complete the picture of Deangelo Goitseone Mogale.
See, and you have a beautiful name as well.
Thank you so much.
You have an absolutely beautiful name.
Thank you so much. It has trapped me in the shadow, but okay.
It will trap you in the shadow. You'll be absolutely fine. Don't even say that at all. So let's talk more about creativity. And a lot of the time I find that we get judged based upon who we are, what we do, how we do it. But if I said to you, Deangelo, I'm going to take the word judgment out of the dictionary, for example, and the word judgment didn't exist, what do you believe in your life that you would have done differently, knowing that judgment didn't exist anymore?
I think I wouldn't have reduced myself so much. I wouldn't have made myself palatable. Yeah, I think I wouldn't have reduced my voice, my character, my identity to fit into a mold that I clearly didn't fit into to begin with. I think a big part of me would still have access to so much joy, peace, and as well as, I would say, confidence, because there are moments where I find myself asking. I used to be able to just walk into a room and I'd be centered, I'd be okay, I'd be, grounded and know exactly who I am and who raised me, Currently, when I walk into a room, my first check, okay, who's here? Okay, did they look at me? Did they see anything faulty that I did? Stuff like that. It's almost as though I preempt a lot of things. I preempt the disappointment or the rejection or the judgment in this particular case. And if the word judgment was not in the dictionary, I know for a fact that I'd be a much better singer, much better actor, much better dancer, performer in its entirety, because then I'd be able to explore the craft of performance without worry. I'd be able to explore the arts without limitation, you know. And a big part of who I am today, yes, I'm proud of the person that I am currently. However, I do know that there's still a lot of work in learning to understand who I could have become and how do I work towards becoming that particular person, and how do I work towards becoming that performer. Yeah, so without the word judgment in the dictionary, I feel like I would have been pretty unstoppable.
Actually, that's a fair point. I think if a lot of people took out the word judgment, I think someone said to me actually that we need judgment sometimes, and I do understand their concept, because sometimes someone having judgment on you can help you to be a better person or to understand the world and things better. But then I find in society today, judgment, the connotation of the word judgment can come across negative. And make you feel inadequate, or make you feel like you are not worthy of having something that you truly deserve. So taking the word judgment is a good question to ask people, just to see where their mind is at this time. So thank you so much for answering that question. So my next question for you is on music. So if I said to you, if there was one song that was the soundtrack of your life, what song would you choose, and why would you choose that particular song?
One song, and it is the song of me, basically, my whole life.
Sums up your life. So if I said, look, Deangelo, we're gonna put one song on for you and one song alone, and you are gonna dance like there is no tomorrow, what song would that be?
I think it would be Bird Set Free by Sia. Yeah, Bird Set Free by Sia. I don't know if you know it, but
I sure do.
It's, oh my gosh, the lyrics, incredible. They speak to just becoming and letting go of all the shackles, regardless of all the pain that you encounter, learning to fly, learning to sing, I found myself and my melodies, that kind of thing. Definitely Bird Set Free. It speaks to the kind of freedom I want to have when I'm singing, when I'm dancing, when I'm acting. I want that kind of freedom. Yes, there are confines, for the craft and all of that, but just the freedom of being able to embody every aspect of that particular skill at that particular point. That's definitely the song. Definitely that.
I like that. See, that makes a lot of sense. See, this is good. So if I said to you, I'm going to put you on a desert island for 24 hours, okay?
Okay.
But on that desert island, Deangelo, you're allowed to take with you an activist, a president, and a musician. Who would you take to have a conversation with for 24 hours?
So if on that desert I'm allowed to take a
president, activist, and musician.
President, activist, and musician. Okay, so practically speaking, because I'm a very rational person,
go for it.
I would take the president because I know the whole country would be looking for him, and they will find us quickly before we get dehydrated. If I'm trying to escape that particular desert, that is, of course, I know for a fact that they will find him. Listen, we need to search for the president. Let's go. We're gonna scour that entire desert until you find him, and I know they will find us very quickly. But if I was to be trapped in the desert for a particular period of time, I would definitely want to be trapped with probably an activist. I don't know, maybe my inquisitive mind would like to, maybe ask them what drives them, why they stand for what they stand for, and how they found, their identity in activism and all of that. Because currently, I haven't fully come to understand what it is that I want to live in the world. And I would love I would love to understand what it is that I'm going to live in the world. What will my mark be on this planet? And the only reason why I would choose an activist in this particular case is just so that I can perhaps to a certain degree grow closer to identifying myself in relation to what I want to stand for. I genuinely do believe that if I can just have that, relation and connection where there's no inhibitions, like just everything is removed, and they get to just freely talk around their philosophy, around their psyche, around their understanding of life, I would get to learn so much. Currently, a lot of activists, I think, are also worried about, being politically correct. They no longer freely express themselves, which is okay. It's understandable. You need to be careful of what you say.
I think that also restricts them, though. I feel like you're not using your true potential of what you're standing for. If, like, you remember in the beginning, you said you used to worry about what people think of you and being a people pleaser. If you are an activist, and this is just my opinion, it doesn't mean I'm correct at all. If you are an activist, you have to break rules. You have to kind of go on the pathway where you're not being disrespectful to anyone, but you have to voice your opinion whether people like it or not.
And that's the exact reason why, without all of these inhibitions, and we're just there in the desert, they get to be freely themselves, both flaws and, flaws and everything. Like, you just want to understand and break down every single part of their philosophy. And then from then I get to understand what it exactly that they truly stand for. Because currently, I would say, like, in terms of activism, it's almost like it's very selective, in this particular world. We pick and choose what it is we want to give about. We are so staunch, very direct about sexuality, but we're not addressing the fact that there's a country whereby children are being married off to 70-year-old men. Precisely. And why are you worried about two consenting adults, when you should be worried about a daughter or a child who's being married off to an old person? Stuff like that. We pick and choose. It's very imbalanced. But that's just my thought around the whole matter.
I can get really passionate about that one. I can, honestly. There are some things where you turn around and you say to yourself, yes, that is something that I am passionate about when people talk about things like that. So it's so phenomenal how this hour that we've been talking has gone so quickly. So it has actually gone so quickly, and it's been phenomenal speaking to you. But I have just a few more for you, just to let people understand who you are. So if I said to you, what is the best advice you have ever received, what would you say to me?
The best advice that I've ever received. Well, initially the first one was from my dad about choosing your passion at all times, about how if you choose your passion, you will never work a day in your life, and you'll always, feel fulfillment regardless how, tiring circumstances are on this planet. But I think the next best advice that I've had in my entire life is live your life without regret. Everything that you go through, every mistake that you make, every flaw that you encounter about yourself is a stroke on a canvas that you get to paint however you want. It is your canvas, and you are the Da Vinci of that particular piece of art. You are the beauty that will resonate at the end of your life, and you get to look back and say, I did that, live your life like there's no tomorrow. Live in this particular moment and allow that to be something that propels you to being whoever it is that you want to be.
Yes.
And then the last one that I got was from a late friend of mine, actually. She said, in a world that is ruled by people who do not have the best intentions, understand that in a world,
I can make a whole nother podcast on what you just said.
Oh my gosh, but understand that a person like yourself, a person who thinks about the next person, a person who wants the best for the next person is a rare jewel. Don't ever let anybody crush you, no matter what. And no matter what the pressure, understand that you will always be beaming with light. Not only because you are, Goitseone, Deangelo, Mogale, but also because you know exactly what it is that you want for yourself.
Yes.
And having said that, you know what it is that other people, perhaps maybe don't get to fully express because you've been at a point whereby you don't get to express yourself. You know what it feels like. These stories that you collect along the way in a world that is filled with unjust people, understand that you will be telling those people's stories. You will be the voice of the young men and women maybe who do not get to fully be up there in front of the world and get to say, I experienced this, I didn't like it, or I liked it, but here, So she was just like, you are a vessel. You're brought on this earth to represent millions of people, people who look like you, people who are not afforded the same, things that they should be afforded, people who are marginalized things. Allow yourself to be a vessel that takes their stories and puts them on a platform that is visible for everyone to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So my second to last question for you is, when was the last time that you felt totally at peace with yourself?
That is scary that I have to think so hard.
Your face said it all. Yeah, literally.
That is so scary. Oh my gosh. The last time that I completely felt at peace with myself was when I was listening to my mom's favorite hymn. I think it was on Sunday. I was missing home, but in this particular hymn, I never really understood as to why my mom loved it so much, because it felt like, girl, that is such a morbid piece of music. Like, why would you like that? But the more I got to understand the hymn, the more I got to understand that she was somehow learning to make peace with the faults that she had on this planet, and somehow learning to accept that she will never be perfect, but she did the best that she could with everything that she could, So the hymn is actually like it's a Sesotho hymn. Sesotho is a tribe in South Africa.
Yeah.
And the hymn is called Lona Baratang Ho Phela, which translates to you who love to live. So if I'm to translate it completely, Lona Baratang Ho Phela, hopola tsietsi ya tsela e isang ha Yesu. So you who so love to live on this particular planet, remember the danger of this particular journey, the danger that can take you back home. But the danger is in that if you do not make the best of this life, you will be full of regret, So, I was listening to that song, that hymn, on Sunday, and I felt at peace. I felt happy. I felt okay. Yes, I did not achieve everything that I have, set myself to achieve yet, but to a certain degree, looking back at my life, the people that I've met, I am very grateful for the experience of, every single one of them. They've left me with a treasure that continues to propel me towards the future.
Yeah.
Those both dead and alive, you know. This year started off very badly for me. Sorry for diverting, but this year started off very badly for me. I lost a friend of mine. Her name is Abiso Kambi. She was shot on New Year's Eve. And I dreamt about her a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that I took away from that dream is that she's right there on stage with me, because we wanted to be on Lion King together. We wanted to be, on big stages together. And I remember her mom saying, we never got to see what she would achieve. But because you two were so close, whenever we see you, we will see her right by your side, And
I like that.
Yeah, I'm really glad I've met such people. And this hymn in particular just said, you are, in essence, it basically just told me, you are blessed, and there've been so much favor and mercy upon you. Don't take that for granted, and live knowing that you've met people who continuously guide you, knowing that you're still going to meet people who will continuously guide you and shape you into the best version of yourself, even though the process might be painful at times. So yeah, I was just lying on my bed and it was just playing. A couple of teardrops fell and I was like, wow, okay, this is gratitude, I guess. This is what it feels like to just say thank you. I'm here. Not everything is okay, but wow, it does not matter. This feeling right now, this joy, this tranquility, this freedom in emotion and psychological well-being, spiritual well-being, it felt ethereal. It just felt so uplifting. It felt, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was that well.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny how things come to you when you least expect it. And I think that's the beauty of you finding what peace is and understanding what peace is. It comes at its ambient time when it's meant to and never before. And I find that with love. I find that with so many things. Usually, people fall in love with someone and they don't even realize that they're falling in love with that person, and it's possibly the most oddest person. I know that sounds really weird, me saying that. It's the most unrealistic person that you most probably could fall in love with.
Yeah.
And that's what life is like. It's like finding peace, finding love, finding yourself, finding your purpose, and all these things transpire into different things. So what you said there was wonderful to be able to understand it. So before I have the gratitude of saying thank you to you for coming on the show, I would love for people to be able to find you, to see what you do, just like I have when I was doing my research on you. I love it when you shake your shoulders. It's just so cool. I would love for people to be able to find you, to communicate with you, to find a friendship with you in your own way. Please let us know where we can find you, Deangelo.
All right. So first things first, currently I am in a production called Inala, which is a Zulu musical, and it is at the House of Sisters Grimm in Soho, East Castle Street. Yes, Grammy-nominated production. Find me there. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Twitter. The handle is the same, at Deangelo_RSA. And that is Deangelo with a DEA, not just DA. Yeah. Deangelo_RSA. I think it's a TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, then we are still growing on YouTube, so I think you can just type in my entire name and you'll find me. Deangelo Mogale or Deangelo Goitseone Mogale. You'll definitely find me there. And if you do not find me there, I will find you.
Oh, I like that. I like that for sure. So, Deangelo, this is where I say to you, thank you so much for your humor, your energy, for you coming on the show and blessing us with the gratitude of who you are, telling your story authentically in your way. I have so much gratitude for you. I'm sure the guests the audience who are listening to this and listening to you as our humble guest on the show,
thank you so much.
Has humbly enjoyed this, and I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I am truly grateful to be on the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks. Listen, this is not the last you hear of me.
No, definitely
I'm going
not.
to be
Definitely not. I know
I'm
that for
truly,
sure.
truly grateful. This is an amazing opportunity. Lovely meeting you all.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, Deangelo. So guys, this is where I say to you, thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast, and please remember you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and every platform that you desire to listen to. I'm sure we are humbly on there also. Please remember we come out every Tuesday with a pre-recorded version of the Us People podcast, but don't just listen to the main one that has just come out. You can go all the way back to the beginning of over 300 episodes of the Us People podcast, where you can find one that resonates with you, who you are, your purpose, what you do to help educate yourself, or just to uplift your spirit and soul of who you are as a person. Please remember you can also go to the Savia Rocks website and the Us People podcast website, where you can read an inspirational story about each episode of the Us People podcast, and also just leave your comments, what you think and who you would like to come on the show. And this is where I say to you guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Take care.
I'ma get deeper, tables are turning, world in reverse, political burning. Where is the love? Where is the hope? Where is the faith inside? It's been misplaced, power being misguided, manipulation used for both sides, unjustified violence. You living it up in your kingdom, where you're using the misguided ones to do your killing. You should be in front line, seeing the pain, taking the blame, seeing the souls that been lost and flown away.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you too. Thank you very much.
The wheels are spinning, globes in rewind, political ablaze. Where's compassion? Where's the love? 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 Where is the love? Where is the hope? Where is the faith inside? How do you breathe and how do you sleep? I guess it's a lie you've been telling yourself. Get deeper, tables are turning, world in reverse, political burning. Jesus said, sins of your fathers, ripple through time, we living and breathing it. How could I breathe when I see people dying on both sides? We need to do better, shell shock, yeah, imagine that. Powers pretending they don't even have blood on their hands. Playing on both sides, you know what you did. Change the status quo, sins of your fathers. Ripple through time, we living it, breathing it. Kings and queens, mass destruction, digging mass graves. Driven by the greed, you don't really care. Devil smile in my face. Your hidden agenda ain't really about peace. Your hidden agenda ain't really about love. How do you breathe and how do you sleep? I guess it's a lie you've been telling yourself. The lies we see through the darkness and the blurry lines. I'm about to dive in deep. The wheels are spinning, globes in rewind.